Welcome to Betsy's Nighttime Comforts. I'm your host, Betsy. I hope that as you listen each day, it becomes easier to relax after a busy day. I remember when I first began yoga classes, I struggled to find my center. I was always eager to move on to the next pose, my mind racing ahead. But over time, I learned the beauty of stillness. I remember thinking, can't we stay in this position longer? It took me a while to get there, but once I did, I cherished those moments of relaxation. I found that I could settle my mind more quickly each day, and I began to look forward to my time on the mat. I hope my stories do the same for you. Today, you will uncover the truth behind what has truly brought Earnest and Virginia to this quaint neighborhood. Will Frank be able to save the day? Don't get your hopes up. Now let's settle into a comfortable position. Rest your shoulders and relax. Let's take a couple deep breaths before we start. Inhale deeply through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. Let the worries of the day fade away. Again. One more time. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. Fascinating Facades, Part 3, The Unraveling Truth. The basement was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the cold, damp concrete walls as Frank blinked in disbelief. He was tied to a sturdy chair, his wrists bound tightly with coarse rope that bit into his skin, a painful reminder of his helplessness. The air was thick with tension, and the unsettling silence was punctuated only by the distant sound of dripping water, echoing like a clock counting down his last moments. Earnest and Virginia stood a few feet away, their expressions a mix of amusement and cold calculation as they plotted Frank's fate. "Let's scare him," Virginia whispered, casting a shy glance at Frank. The glint in her eyes sent icy shivers down his spine, igniting a primal fear within him. Ernest winked, ensuring Frank could hear him as he said, "Do we dump him into the lake like the last one? Let the current take him away? Or we could have our boa crush him. Or perhaps we poison him." Frank's breath quickened, panic flooding his senses like a torrent. "Please, just let me go," he pleaded, his voice trembling with raw fear. "You don't have to do this." "Just strangle him and get it over with," Virginia suggested nonchalantly, her tone casual, as if they were discussing what to have for dinner rather than plotting his murder. Ernest turned to Frank, a smirk playing on his lips, always keeping an eye out, always concerned. "But that's a problem for us now, isn't it?" His words dripped with sarcasm, and Frank could feel his heart racing in his chest, each beat echoing his impending doom. A warm trickle ran down Frank's leg, the overwhelming fear rendering him powerless. I'll be quiet, I promise," he stammered, desperation lacing his words like poison. Frank, you shouldn't be wasting your urine like that. It may be all you have to drink soon, Ernest said, laughter threatening to escape his lips, a twisted mockery of his suffering. Burning with embarrassment, Frank nodded excessively, each moment a silent plea for mercy. Yes, I'll keep my mouth shut, I swear. You know this neighborhood is safe, right? We aren't here to hurt anyone. Well, not unless you give us a reason, Virginia said, stepping closer, her voice dripping with a false sweetness that made Frank's skin crawl. He felt the walls closing in around him, suffocating in their malice. Actually, now that we've been here 6 months, we've made some great friends. You've ruined that for us. Who isn't safe? You, if you keep flapping your mouth, Ernest added, his eyes narrowing dangerously. I won't say a word, Frank promised, his voice barely a whisper, the weight of their threats pressing down on him like a heavy shroud. Good, because we do love our little neighborhood, Ernest replied, his sarcasm thick in the air, a dark cloud looming over Frank's fate. As Frank sat, he worked the courage up to ask, what about all the guns? Why do you have them? His voice wavered, the question hanging in the air like a noose. Virginia exchanged a quick look with Ernest before responding, her smile thin and predatory. Those? Oh, we just like to be prepared for anything. You can never be too careful in today's world, she said, her words laced with a chilling undertone. But I overheard you mention killing someone, Frank pressed, his heart pounding as he tried to unravel their twisted intentions, the truth lurking just beyond his grasp. How about the young lady? I saw you with her. You had a gun on her, Frank continued, his voice trembling. Ernest glanced at Virginia, the facade cracking for a moment. Gun? I didn't have a gun on her. She is Virginia's niece. She is upstairs working. She is planning to stay in our house for some time as we are leaving. You're leaving? Don't get any ideas. You open your mouth and I will kill you. Ernest stepped closer, his smirk fading into something far more sinister. We're not looking for trouble, Frank. We're just ensuring our safety and the safety of our friends. You understand, right? Frank's stomach churned as he tried to digest their words, his instincts screaming that they were hiding something far more sinister beneath their polished exteriors. Virginia and Ernest exchanged a quick glance before Virginia said, I'm feeling a bit hungry. Let's go grab something to eat. They turned and ascended the stairs, leaving Frank alone in the dim basement. As the sound of their footsteps faded, Frank strained to listen, hoping to catch any hint of their plans. The muffled sounds above were a mix of clattering dishes and low murmurs, but he couldn't make out the words. His heart raced as he wondered what they could be discussing, his mind racing with possibilities. Each creak of the floorboards sent a jolt of anxiety through him, amplifying the feeling of dread that had settled in his gut. As the night deepened, Frank's fear turned into determination. He knew he had to make his escape. After a while, he heard Virginia and Ernest settling down for the night, taking a deep breath to steady himself. He quietly worked his way to the door, finding it ajar, just as he had anticipated. With a final glance back at the dark basement, he slipped out into the night, desperate to warn someone before it was too late. As he hurried back to his house, he quickly entered and checked all the windows and doors twice to ensure they were locked, his heart racing with anxiety. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thoughts racing as he considered his next move. What could he do to prevent the impending danger? As morning light broke through the darkness, Frank knew he had to act fast. He decided to sneak through the neighbors' yards to reach Mabel's house, hoping that she would be able to help him understand what was happening. With a determined mind, he crept through the quiet yards, staying low and alert, ready to warn Mabel and gather allies against the threat that lurked in his neighborhood. When he arrived at Mabel's, he found her bustling about, seemingly unaware of the horrors that had transpired just hours earlier. He felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was short-lived. Before he could catch his breath, Virginia and Ernest arrived at Mabel's, and Frank was startled to see them. Virginia's eyes narrowed as she took in his haggard appearance. "You look exhausted," she said, feigning concern, a predator sizing up its prey. "Did you not get a good night's rest?" "I feel like I'm coming down with something," Frank replied, trying to mask his fear with a weak smile that felt more like a grimace. "Perhaps you should head home so no one else gets sick," Virginia suggested, her voice dripping with false sweetness, a thinly veiled threat hanging in the air. "You're right," Frank said, nodding weakly, desperate to escape their probing gazes. Ernest opened the door for him, a friendly smile plastered on his face, a mask concealing his true nature. "Make sure you drink plenty of fluids. There's a virus going around that has killed many. What would this neighborhood do without you watching over them? Keep track of your temperature, and if it goes up, get to the hospital. If you need me to drive you, just let me know." As Frank stepped over the threshold and into the sunlight, a wave of relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. Just as he reached the front porch, the television in the living room blared an urgent announcement. "Attention residents, there will be several presidents from different countries visiting town tomorrow. Please be advised that there will be extensive security measures in place." Frank's stomach dropped as he turned to see Ernest and Virginia exchanging a significant glance. Their eyes locked onto him, and in that moment, the truth hit him like a freight train. He now knew who they planned to kill. The pieces fell into place, and a wave of dread washed over him, the gravity of the situation pressing down on his chest. He forced himself to maintain a calm exterior, but inside, panic surged like a tidal wave. He had to find a way to escape and warn someone before it was too late. My dear listeners, it seems that while Frank is scared out of his mind, something tells me he is secretly enjoying the thrill. After all, nothing has happened in his role as the watchman until now, and he takes his volunteer work seriously. Think about the excitement of facing the unknown, the rush of adrenaline that accompanies such uncertainty. As you drift into your own peaceful slumber, let Frank's journey remind you that sometimes, amidst fear, there lies an opportunity for courage and discovery. Pleasant dreams and good night.